The skies above Earth had never looked so crowded. Dozens of alien ships appeared without warning. They didn't fire first. They just hovered, dark and silent, watching. Humanity didn't wait to ask questions. The first missile was fired by a nervous general. That was the beginning of everything. Cale was a young explorer, not a soldier. He had trained for years to travel distant systems, not fight in wars. But after Earth responded with force, the aliens replied with violence far worse. Cities were destroyed, oceans boiled, spaceports turned into ash. The Earth Alliance was falling, and Cale's mission changed from exploration to escape. The war had no clear cause. People called it the Skyfall. Some thought it was punishment. Others believed Earth had stumbled into a galaxy-wide conflict. No one knew the truth. All Cale knew was that his shuttle was his only home now. He flew through burning skies and broken stations, searching for a safe place. But there was none left nearby. He programmed random jump coordinates into his ship's system. He didn't care anymore. His fuel was low. His supplies were thin. He needed a miracle. The jump gate opened and closed, throwing him far beyond known space. When he woke up, alarms were screaming. His ship had landed on a strange world: green skies, silver sand, and twin suns. Cale stumbled out of the cracked hatch. The air was breathable. The heat was heavy. He blinked, adjusting to the strange light. Giant ruins stood in the distance. He had never seen structures so tall and broken. It looked ancient, forgotten by time. But he felt watched. Something massive moved behind the rocks. The ground trembled. Not from machines, but footsteps, slow, powerful, deliberate. He aimed his weapon and backed away. From the mist stepped a figure unlike any he had ever seen. She was tall, at least 12 feet, and her skin was a rich green. Her body was strong, armored in gold and obsidian. But her eyes were sad, deep, and filled with loneliness. The alien woman didn't attack. She knelt slowly, hands open, showing she meant no harm. Her voice echoed, not in sound, but directly in his mind. "You are not like the others," she said. "You are human, but you are alone." Cale hesitated. He had met many alien species before, but never one who spoke like that. She was not just a warrior. She was something more. She introduced herself as Serana, queen of the Ixtari exiles. Her people once ruled systems across the stars. But she had been betrayed, banished to this dead world. Her throne was gone. Her soldiers were dust. Only she remained, waiting for a chance to leave. But no one came. No one dared enter the cursed planet until him. Serana looked at Cale with calm hunger, not for blood, but for purpose. "You arrived by fate," she said. "This world chooses no one by mistake. You have something I need. And I have what you cannot find anywhere else: safe passage through the stars." Cale didn't answer. His fingers tightened around his weapon. But deep inside, he felt a strange pull toward her. She stood slowly, towering over him. Yet her presence was not crushing. It was comforting. Powerful, but soft. She had scars on her arms, proof of battles long past. Yet she moved like royalty. Her violet hair fell over her armored chest, shining like liquid light. She didn't beg. She offered. "I cannot leave this place without a bond," she said. "It is part of my exile. Only through a vow can I break it. I offer you something rare: my strength, my world, and myself." Cale's mind raced. This was insane. He didn't know her. He didn't trust her. But his ship was broken. The war was behind him. Earth was gone. And here was a queen offering him salvation. He looked around. No rescue was coming. No beacon would be found. His path forward was unknown. But her eyes remained locked on his. She didn't blink. She didn't waver. She only waited. Cale took one step forward and whispered, "And what do you want in return?" Serana smiled and bowed her head. her voice low and ancient. "Take me with you, I will be yours." Kale didn't speak for a moment. His heart beat fast as the wind shifted across the ruined stones. The alien queen stood with perfect stillness, her hands still folded, her eyes full of unspoken pain. He had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but nothing like her. She was a warrior, a leader. But something in her voice made her feel human. He lowered his weapon slowly. Not because he trusted her fully, but because she had done nothing to threaten him. Instead of power, she offered peace. Instead of chains, she offered choice. In a galaxy that had burned every bridge behind him, this moment felt like the last door still open. Serana stepped closer, careful and slow. She seemed to understand how fragile humans were compared to her kind. Her golden armor shimmered with age. Each piece told a story. She was not just strong. She was someone who had survived. She spoke again, her voice like thunder wrapped in. "Silk, you do not belong to this war. You are not made for death. You are a builder, a thinker, a seeker. I see it in your eyes." Kale felt heat rise in his chest. It had been a long time since someone saw him like that. He asked the only question that mattered. "What happens if I say yes?" Serana tilted, her head slightly, her long purple hair falling over her shoulder. "Then I will carry you through the void. I will be your shield. Your name will be written in the stones of my ancestors. You will not be alone again." Kale looked around the dead world. The air was thick with silence. Not a single bird or beast lived here, yet the queen had stayed. She had waited. She could have turned mad in the isolation. But instead, she kept. Her mind, her grace, her honor. He found that more terrifying than any monster. She didn't beg. She didn't pressure him. She waited with the patience of someone who had waited 1,000 years already. Kale felt small beside her, but not weak. Her presence did not crush him. It lifted him. He sat on a broken stone, placing his pack beside him. "You need someone to break the curse," he said. "And I need a way off this rock. But this sounds more like a marriage than a deal." Serana gave a slow nod. "It must be a bond of truth, not forced, not fake. The exile was placed upon me by blood law. Only by union with another soul, freely given, can I leave." Her words echoed in his mind longer than expected. This wasn't just some alien trick. It was something old, something sacred. He could feel it in the very soil beneath him. This place was not just forgotten. It was sealed. Kale thought of Earth, of the war, of the burning cities and broken satellites. He thought of the commanders who gave orders like gods and the people who died without knowing why. He didn't miss it. He didn't want to go back. But he did want to go forward. He met Serana's eyes again. "What would I become if I said yes?" She walked closer, now only a few feet away. Her voice softened. "You would become my equal, my guide through your world. And I would become yours. You would be more than a man. You would be the bond that ends my chains." There was a silence between them. It wasn't empty. It was full of weight, full of meaning. In that quiet moment, Kale saw more honesty in her than he had seen in any general or politician back home. She had nothing to gain by lying. She had nothing left to lose. He stood slowly, not out of fear, but out of respect. The queen stood taller than him, yet he did not feel less. He felt seen. He felt needed. And strangely, he felt wanted. "Then I say yes," he said. Serana fell to one knee and placed her palm against her heart. Her armor clicked as she moved, and light pulsed through the lines of her skin. "From this day forward, your path is mine, and mine is yours." The ground shook gently as her exile began to break. The ancient curse that had sealed Serana to the planet began to weaken as soon as the bond was made. Kale felt it in the air, like pressure lifting from his chest. Even the wind changed. It moved freer, lighter, as if the world itself had been Holding its breath for too long, Sirana turned toward the dark temple ruins at the center of the valley. They were old and broken, but not dead. Light now flickered inside the carvings of the stone walls. Symbols that once lay dormant glowed in soft gold. "This place will not hold me much longer," she said. Kale followed behind her. He felt like a visitor inside a dream. The land was beautiful in a haunted way. Vines covered half-crushed pillars, and deep black roots twisted through ancient stairways. Every step they took echoed through the empty halls as if the planet was. Watching them closely, inside the heart of the ruins, a large chamber opened beneath the surface. A crystal structure stood in the middle, pulsing with life. "This is the throne that betrayed me," Sirana said. "When they exiled me, they sealed my essence into this room. Now with our bond, it begins to return." Kale stepped closer. The crystal shimmered brighter with each footstep. He could see her reflection in it, but not his own. That made him pause. "Why can I not see myself?" he asked. Sirana answered without turning her head. "Because you are not from this world. This place only knows those born of Ixtari blood. You are the outsider who broke its silence." Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Stones cracked. Dust fell from above. A deep hum filled the air. Kale stumbled back, but Sirana stood firm. Her eyes glowed white as power surged through her veins. The ruins were reacting to her presence, to the bond that had formed. Kale watched as she placed her hand against the crystal. Energy pulsed into her arm, her hair lifted. Her body rose a few inches above the ground. She looked like a goddess reborn, a queen no longer forgotten. The chains of exile snapped one by one around her soul. When she landed, the glow faded slowly. She turned to Kale and gave him a soft smile. "It is done," she said. "The bond has freed me. I am no longer trapped by their curse." Kale stepped toward her and nodded once. "What happens now?" he asked. Sirana looked toward the sky beyond the broken roof. The twin suns were shifting position. "Now I leave this world," she said, "and you leave with me. But be warned, Kale, my return to the stars will not go unnoticed. My enemies have waited for this day." They climbed out of the ruins and returned to where his broken ship rested. Sirana examined it carefully. Her fingers moved over the surface, and light flowed from her touch into the hull. Kale stepped back, confused. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Repairing it with what remains of the throne's power," she said. "We have little time." Within minutes, the ship hummed to life. Lights flickered. Screens lit up. Kale had worked on it for months, but it had never looked like this. Sirana had restored it with energy, not tools. He stood speechless as she turned toward him again. "Get in," she said calmly. He climbed into the cockpit. The systems responded. Instantly, he had never seen them this responsive. Sirana sat beside him, but the seat bent and shaped itself to her giant form. The ship accepted her as if it had known her all along. As they lifted off the ground, the planet began to crumble behind them. Not from destruction, but from release. The exile was broken, and the land was no longer cursed. Sirana stared out the window, watching her prison fall into peace. "I thought I would die here," she whispered. Kale didn't speak. He knew some things didn't need words. The stars opened ahead of them. The galaxy waited like an old book, ready for new chapters to be written. But he knew one thing for sure. He was no longer just a lost explorer. He was the bonded companion of a queen who had survived eternity, and her return to the stars had just begun. Asterisk. The stars stretched endlessly ahead as Kale's ship slipped into deep space. The navigation system flickered but held steady thanks to Sirana's strange energy. He looked at her from the corner of his eye. She sat like a statue of royalty, calm and quiet. Her presence filled the small cockpit with strength. He wasn't sure what he had agreed to. It felt like more than a bond. It was a partnership, yes, but also something deeper. She didn't act like she owned him. She acted like he mattered. That confused him. No one had ever looked at him like that before. Sirana reached forward and adjusted a glowing panel. Her fingers lit with pale energy. Symbols danced across the screen. Kale couldn't read them. This ship now carries Ixtari. Runes, she explained. You will be protected in more ways than you know. Kale asked her how long it would take to reach the next system. She answered without looking up. 3 days if the warp holds. 2 if I guide it myself. That answer surprised him. You can control warp space? He asked. She nodded. My exile may be broken, but my gifts are not. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. Outside, the stars moved slowly. Inside, the hum of the ship filled the silence. Kale leaned back and closed his eyes, trying to rest, but his mind wouldn't let him. He kept thinking about her voice, her words, and the bond they shared. Suddenly, the ship jolted, not violently, but enough to wake him fully. What was that? He asked, standing quickly. Sirana narrowed her eyes. A signal pulse. Someone is trying to scan us. It's old tech, sloppy, but strong. Kale moved to the controls, checking the readings. There it was, a faint signature in the distance. He didn't recognize it, but Sirana did. Her expression darkened. It's from one of the houses that betrayed me, she said. They must have tracked the shift in the curse's energy. They know I'm free. Kale asked what they would do. She looked at him with quiet certainty. We keep moving, but we do not run. Let them follow. Let them see who I've become. Let them see you beside me. As the signal grew stronger, a shadow appeared in space. A ship, bigger than theirs. Older, but well-armed. It did not fire, but it did block their path. Kale's fingers hovered near the defense controls. Sirana remained still. They will not fire, she said. Not yet, the screen blinked. A message appeared. Audio only. A rough voice echoed through the cockpit. Sirana of the Ixtari, your exile was sacred. You should not walk the stars again. Surrender yourself or face the will of the council. Kale expected her to respond with anger. Instead, she smiled. They speak with fear, she said softly. May fear what I might become now that I am not alone. She sent back a message, calm, direct. I have returned by bond, not by force. Deny my right, and you deny the laws you claim to uphold. My companion stands with me. If you move against me, you move against a sacred union. There was a long pause on the line. Then the enemy ship slowly turned and cleared the path. No reply. No threat. Only retreat. Kale exhaled slowly. He didn't know what magic had just passed between them, but it was real. And it worked. Sirana looked at him and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. They will not all turn away. Some will fight. Some will try to take you from me. You must be ready. He nodded once. I didn't expect this life, he said. But I won't turn from it now. They passed the blockade and entered a new sector. The stars here were different, colder, sharper. Ahead lay unknown territory. Sirana's eyes focused on a distant point. We go to the gathering of houses, she said. If they recognize our bond, the exile ends for all time. If they deny it, war may follow. Kale sat quietly, letting her words settle. He was not just passing through space anymore. He was moving through ancient power, tied to a queen who had waited centuries for this moment. And every star they passed brought them closer to a future that neither of them could fully predict. The stars dimmed as the ship entered a sector known only on ancient maps. Sirana called it the Veil of Dust. Kale had never heard of it, but as soon as they crossed its edge, he felt the difference. Light bent oddly. Space hummed in strange tones. Even his own thoughts seemed quieter. Sirana guided the ship without touching the controls. Her eyes glowed faintly. Her fingers rested gently on her lap. She wasn't piloting. She was merging. Her presence filled the ship like a second system. Cale didn't question it anymore. He just trusted her. They spoke little on the first day. Cale used the silence to study the house gathering Sirana had mentioned. He didn't know all the details, but he understood this much. It was a place where power decided fate. Kings, queens, and warlords gathered every 50 cycles. It was not a meeting. It was a judgment. Sirana had once ruled among them. Now she would return not as a fallen exile, but as a bonded queen. Her return would not be met with cheers. It would be met with whispers, challenges, and sharp gazes. Cale could sense she was preparing for more than debate. She spent hours meditating. Not in a spiritual way, but like a warrior sharpening a blade. Her breath was steady, her body still. Yet energy moved around her in invisible waves. Cale could feel it every time he stepped near her. It didn't push him away. It welcomed him, but with warning. At night, they ate together in the small galley. The food was simple, rations mostly. But Sirana took little. "My body stores what I need," she explained. "But this," she said while watching him chew, "this is part of your world I must learn." Cale offered her a piece of dried fruit. She bit it carefully, as if tasting history. Her face didn't change, but she nodded once. "Sweet," she said. "I understand why humans love it. It's the first honest thing I've tasted in centuries." The second day brought turbulence. Not from outside, but from within the ship. The bond between them had grown stronger, and the systems were reacting. Lights blinked, sensors surged. The ship was evolving into something not fully human, not fully alien. Cale watched it happen, unable to stop it, but also unwilling to interfere. Asked her what would happen if the gathering rejected her return. Sirana's answer was sharp and clear. "Then I will walk away with you. I do not need their approval. But they will not be allowed to hunt us. If they try, they will learn what exile taught me." On the third day, the structure appeared. Floating above a pale gas giant, it looked like a crown made of shattered moons. Sharp towers, glowing spires, and rings of golden metal rotated slowly around a dark core. "The Hall of Judgment," Sirana whispered. Cale had never seen anything like it. The ship was called to a stop by external fields. No weapons, just force. A voice entered the cockpit. "Queen Sirana, you are not welcome, yet you arrive. State your purpose and prepare to be received under guard." Sirana replied with regal calm. "I return not alone, but bonded. Under the laws of the old rings. I demand recognition. My exile is broken. My place must be heard." They were guided to a docking platform where shadowy figures waited. Warriors in heavy armor stood in two lines. Between them was a tall alien with bronze skin and two pairs of eyes. He wore robes of command and spoke with a voice like thunder. "We warned you never to return." Cale stepped beside Sirana. He expected her to speak, but instead, she looked at him. A silent request passed between them. He understood it and spoke first. "We come not for war, we come for truth. She has fulfilled the bond. You must honor your own laws." There was silence. Tension crackled like fire. The gathered lords murmured among themselves. Sirana stood firm. Cale felt the heat of her presence at his back. She would not move without him. He would not step back without her. The bronze-robed lord stepped aside at last. "You may enter the hall. Speak your truth. But know this, if your bond is a lie, we will know." Sirana answered without fear. "Then we will speak with nothing to hide." The Hall of Judgment was larger than any place Cale had ever seen. Its walls rose high into darkness, covered in carvings that told the stories of ancient empires. Light poured through hanging crystals, casting reflections that danced across the polished floors. The air was thick with power, history, and suspicion. Sirana walked at the front, her steps calm and slow. Her armor glinted under the sacred lights, yet her movements were quiet. The lords of the galaxy watched from tall thrones carved into the walls. Some whispered among themselves. Others sat in still silence, measuring her soul from afar. Kale followed closely, feeling both out of place and entirely essential. He wore no crown, no badge of honor, but he carried the bond that had broken Serana's exile. Without him, she had no claim. Without her, he had no direction. They stood at the center of everything together. A tall figure stepped forward from the circle. Her robes shimmered like oil on water. Her face was sharp and unreadable. She spoke without anger, but her words cut like glass. We remember the crimes. We remember the rebellion. Why do you dare return, Serana of the Ixtari? Serana did not flinch. I return not to beg, but to claim what is mine. I return as the law allows. The exile is broken. My bond is whole. Judge me now, not for the past, but for the truth. That stands beside me. All eyes turned to Kale. He could feel the weight of 1,000 ancient voices pressing against his skin. He stepped forward and spoke in a clear, steady tone. I did not know her history. I did not come here for power. But I made a vow in a place forgotten by time. That vow is real. That bond is true. A low murmur filled the hall. The thrones stirred, lights shifted. Symbols along the walls began to glow as if reacting to his words. The bond was not just emotional. It was something ancient, something written into the very laws of the stars. The robed woman raised her hand, and silence returned. This council accepts your voice, she said. But the bond must be tested. The old magic demands it. You both will enter the mirror of realms. If the bond is false, it will break. If it is true, it will shine. Serana gave a single nod. She was not afraid. Kale looked at her and nodded too. Whatever the mirror was, he would face it. Not because he trusted the council, but because he trusted her. They were led into a smaller chamber behind the main hall. In the center stood a circular pool of still black water. Above it floated a perfect silver ring, humming with quiet energy. A single voice instructed them, step into the water. The mirror will take you. Together, they stepped forward. As soon as their feet touched the water, everything changed. The world around them melted into white light. Kale blinked, then found himself standing in a field of stars. Serana stood beside him, but something was different. She was taller, brighter. Her form shimmered like starlight wrapped in armor. He looked at his own hands and saw nothing, no flesh, only thought and feeling. The mirror had stripped away their bodies and laid bare their truth. A voice spoke from everywhere. Show us your bond. Show us your unity. Without speaking, Kale reached out. His thoughts moved like waves. Serana responded instantly. She didn't pull him closer. She simply allowed him in. In that space of thought, he felt her past, her sorrow, her strength, her years of silence, her fierce hope. He showed her his pain, his loneliness, his drifting heart. She embraced it all, without judgment. Their bond wrapped around them like light woven into form. The stars began to pulse. The mirror answered. When they opened their eyes, they were back in the chamber. The water was gone. The silver ring hovered silently. The door opened, and the council stood waiting. The robed woman stepped forward and bowed her head. The mirror has spoken. The bond is true. Serana, your exile is ended. You may take your place. The human stands as your equal, for the first time in many years. Serana allowed herself a deep breath, and Kale smiled, not as an outsider, but as the one who changed everything. After the judgment was passed, the Hall of Judgment rang with silent approval. None cheered, none clapped. But in a place so ancient and full of law, silence was more powerful than noise. Serana had been accepted, Her exile was no more. Kale stood at her side, feeling the weight of history shift beneath his feet. The other rulers slowly descended from their thrones. Some nodded with respect. Others simply walked past without speaking, but none challenged the decision. The mirror had revealed their truth. No law could deny it. Cyrano walked with steady steps, her head held high. The chains of her past were broken at last. Outside the hall, a large platform overlooked the stars. Cyrano stood there in silence, looking out at the galaxy. Kale joined her, unsure of what to say. She spoke first. "I expected anger. I expected battle. I did not expect peace. Not like this." He nodded slowly. "Do you still want to lead again?" he asked. She closed her eyes for a moment. "I want justice. I want those who betrayed me to answer. But I do not want a throne. Not anymore. I want a future. One not built on fear." Kale understood her well. He had once searched the stars for knowledge. Now he searched for something more. She had given him purpose. And now she offered him something even greater. Not command, not glory, but partnership. They returned to the ship the same evening. The council had allowed them safe passage and declared their bond, recognized in all systems bound by the old rings. Cyrano entered the ship first, placing her palm on the control panel. The ship responded, not just as a machine, but as an extension of her will. Kale watched as the systems lit up in colors he had never seen. "Where to now?" he asked. She turned to him and said, "We find the ones who tried to erase me. Not to destroy them, but to remind them I survived. And to make sure they never do it again." They plotted a course to the outer systems. Forgotten places where traitors hid behind broken fleets and dust-covered palaces. The old lords had vanished after her exile. Now they would have to face what they left behind. Kale trained every day beside her. He learned her language, her symbols, her battle forms. Cyrano never treated him as a student. She trained with him like an equal. Their bond grew stronger not just in spirit, but in action. She taught him how to sense movement without sight, how to speak without sound, how to resist fear in the face of darkness. Kale listened and learned. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. They reached the first outer moon 2 days. Later, it was quiet. Too quiet. Cyrano sensed something was wrong before they landed. "They know we're coming," she said. "But they will not face us in open light. They will hide. They always do." The moment the ship touched the ground, shadow drones rose from beneath the surface. They moved without sound, but Cyrano was faster. Her arm glowed with ancient energy as she raised a shield in front of Kale. The blast from the drones hit it and vanished like mist. Kale moved with precision. He fired without hesitation, using the skills she had drilled into him. The drones fell quickly. But more came. Hundreds. They had been waiting. This was no random attack. This was a trap. Cyrano stepped forward, her armor shining with heat. She drew her blade, a long weapon of light forged from her exile's prison. "No more running," she said. "Let them feel who I am." Kale fought beside her, not behind her. Together, they moved as one. Every strike she made, he followed with precision. Every shield he raised, she turned into a counterattack. They didn't just survive. They dominated. When the last drone fell, the silence returned. The battlefield was filled with smoke and scattered parts. Cyrano looked across the moon's surface and spoke calmly. He was watching, one of the traitors. He will run now, but not far. He knows I will come. Kale stood beside her, breathing hard but standing strong. And together, they stepped back into the ship, ready to chase justice across the stars. Asterisk. The ship glided through the void, chasing a fading signal across broken star lanes. Cyrano stood at the center console, eyes fixed on the path ahead. Kale sat beside her, armor scratched from the last battle, but spirit steady. They both knew the chase was almost over. The traitor they hunted was called Valak, once her most trusted general, now her greatest betrayer. He had been the one who triggered her exile. He convinced the houses she was unfit. He spread lies, forged false proof, and vanished into the dark corners of forgotten space. Now his signal blinked ahead like a heartbeat, weak, faint, but real. Serana spoke without turning her head. He knows he cannot hide anymore. He knows. I carry no fear now. Kale leaned forward. And if he fights? He asked. She looked at him with calm fire. Then he dies. But not for revenge. For balance. The galaxy cannot heal if shadows like him still breathe. They entered orbit above a ruined planet. Black storms circled the surface. The land below was ash and metal. Serana recognized it instantly. This was once a stronghold of my people. He has turned it into a grave. As they landed, a message echoed through their ship. Serana, I warned you. This path leads only to pain. Turn away. You have already won your freedom. Serana replied with steel in her voice. Freedom without justice is a broken crown. I do not come to talk. I come to end what you began. They stepped into the storm. Wind lashed across jagged rocks. Kale walked beside her, his weapon ready but his mind clear. He was not just a passenger now. He was a part of her legend. Valak waited in a fortress carved from bone and stone. He stood tall, armored in dark steel, eyes glowing with old power. So you finally found the will to rise, he said. And you brought a pet, Kale. Step forward before Serana could answer. I'm not a pet. I'm the reason your curse broke. And I'm the last person you'll ever underestimate. Valak laughed coldly. Then come and see if your bond makes you immortal. The ground shook as drones poured from the walls. Serana moved like lightning, her blade cutting arcs of light through the enemy. Kale stayed close, firing with precision, covering her blind spots without needing to be told. They moved like a single force. Every strike was answered with a defense. Every threat was crushed beneath the rhythm of trust. The battle raged across stone bridges and shattered towers, and at the center of it all stood Valak, waiting for the final clash. Serana reached him. First, their blades met in a burst of sparks. Old rage fueled Valak's strikes. But hers were sharper, focused, honest. He roared, trying to overpower her. But she moved with clarity, not hate. Kale circled behind, blocking incoming drones as Serana drove Valak back. Then she did something unexpected. She dropped her weapon and stepped forward with open hands. You wanted to break me, she said, but you never understood. I am not alone anymore. Valak hesitated. That moment was his undoing. Kale's blast struck his armor from behind, sending him to one knee. Serana stepped in and placed her hand on his chest. A pulse of energy surged from her palm. It was not a killing blow. It was judgment. Valak collapsed, his power stripped. His armor cracked, his voice weak. You were always stronger than I feared, he whispered. Serana turned away. And you were always weaker than you pretended. They left him behind. Alive but broken. The war was over. Not with fire, but with truth. The storm above cleared slowly as they returned to their ship. The stars looked brighter. The galaxy no longer felt so dark. Kale sat quietly as the ship rose into the sky. Serana joined him in silence. Neither spoke for a while. They didn't need to. Everything had changed, and yet everything had become simple. He looked at her, and smiled. So what now? He asked. She smiled back. Now we live. As equals, as explorers, as something new. The ship jumped into light, carrying a queen and her bonded human beyond the edges of legend, and for the first time, their future belonged only to them.